Good Monday morning, Larry Sprinkle. I'm with Chris Mulcahy, and you know what that means? It's just two of us. Something's going on. Something's happening in the atmosphere.
We're talking about weekend plans. No, just kidding. We're talking about what's about to come to start this week.
Yeah, we got to tell you, let's take some views down to the Carolina coastline, down to Myrtle Beach on the Grand Strand. Rough seas down there in advance of a big storm system out in the Atlantic Ocean. That's Second Avenue Pier. Our radar indicates some very light rainfall. Now, all of the east of us, nothing really causing any major concern at the moment. But if you got travel plans today, you're headed to the Carolina coastline, watch out. Big events going on down the Myrtle Beach this week. It's going to be a messy, at least the next several days. From, say, North Myrtle Ocean Drive all the way. You ever been to Oak Island, Chris?
Yes, just recently.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
They're getting bombarded with heavy rain there up towards Wilmington.
Very flood prone, by the way.
It certainly is. That whole, and with all the rain they're going to get, we expand the view. Show you it's interesting. The center of circulation is way out in the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah.
Way out from Charleston, about 90 miles from Charleston. That's where the circulation is.
And I think that's the reason why this is potential tropical cyclone 8 is just because right now it's kind of what's called asymmetrical. It's not really lined up as you typically have a tropical depression or tropical storm. So they're waiting for all those boxes to be checked before they will officially name it Tropical Storm Helene.
That's why when you look at the figures, you know, when you say winds 50, gusting 60, a lot of people say, well, isn't that tropical storm force winds?
Technically.
The winds are,
yes,
technically, but all of those elements have to come together before it has a name, before it's given the name Helene.
Yeah, it has to be vertically stacked, totally warm core. So once you don't really have that clear center of circulation, they're not going to name it. But it does look like they are calling for this to be named just before it moves into the Carolinas.
Probably. So maybe landfall, maybe early this afternoon, if it starts to crank up a bit near Myrtle Beach. But it's moving so slow, only moving about 3 to 5 miles an hour. Eventually, the remnants maybe tracking across the Charlotte area with some gusty winds, pockets of heavy rain. Now, let me go back again. Those coastal areas do have the tropical storm warnings in effect. I was trying to get to go in reverse right here. I don't know what's going on, Chris, but the old computer's not behaving this morning.
Yeah, it's just like, no, don't do that. Oh, and now it went too far.
Yeah, that's
all right. One more. Try to get it one more time.
Oh, boy, that's something else.
Let's see.
I'll let you do it manually.
Oh, what is going on over here? All right, hold on. Hold on.
Okay, take a look at this. Is the other radar. I did want to show this other radar picture. Thank you, Robert, our director in there. The heavy rain this morning. Travel plans, heading down to the coastal community, seriously, from Myrtle Beach all the way to the Outer Banks. Not a good time to travel because they're getting some very, very heavy rainfall, and they're getting some gusty winds up to about 50 to 60 miles an hour. Now we'll show you exactly what's going on as far as the tropical alerts that we have this morning. Thank you. It took 3 people to make that work. Myself, Robert, and the control room, Chris, right here. So we have tropical storm warnings in effect from Charleston all the way to Morehead City. Interesting, the flood alerts include areas close by, but not the Charlotte area.
Yeah, and I think the main reason why, because oftentimes if this was like a big bad hurricane, it would have a lot more moisture with it. Debbie had more of a history that's why we had such better flooding issues. I think it's really going to break up by the time it gets to us, and I'm not saying we're not going to see the rain, but the areas off towards the east, they're first getting the strongest bits, but once it fully makes landfall, it will weaken towards the area, but still a lot of rain, don't get me wrong.
I mean, coastal areas could get up to 7 inches of rainfall. And the areas that we showed that have the flood alerts, Wadesboro, Rockingham, Albemarle, those are the areas that could get over 3 inches of rain up towards Raleigh. And it's interesting because if you take the whole Charlotte area, it's all over the place as far as the amount of rain that you get. Some areas only half an inch. And then you go, say, east of Interstate 77, maybe up to 3 inches of rainfall.
I really think, and Mecklenburg County is so tall, I think you're going to even see a difference depending where the heavier band's set up.
A few miles, right?
Yeah, so a few miles is just like, man, we only got some light rain. It's like, what are you talking about? I can't even, my backyard's flooded. So that's going to be kind of the case and scenario. This is not a huge deal for the Charlotte area. We're not going to see like Debbie. Debbie was historic as far as the rainfall that we were going to have. It's still not good because a lot of areas that were impacted by Debbie still aren't fully there. So seeing more rain on top of that isn't a good situation for them.
That's good news. But actually we do need some rain, but just don't need as much at one time. Some of the locally it's rain and wind. We could get some winds gusting up to about 35 miles an hour. The concern here is that with loosened soil, you get winds up to around 35 miles an hour. There goes some trees. Tree limbs, power lines, so we could get some definitely some power outages and some flooding. So that's why we need to stay weather aware about the situation over the next 24 to 36 hours. I tell you what, the temperatures today, it's going to be cool out there this afternoon.
Yeah, look at that. That's kind of what the weekend was projected to be earlier last week, but then we got some sunshine. Right. You're not going to be as lucky over the next couple of days.
It's going to be rainy. So that's why we're really weather aware. This afternoon through the evening, overnight, all the way into tomorrow morning, especially. It may include most of the day tomorrow. We may have to extend that weather aware.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
and that's why this is a different look than what you usually see. We'll have a weather-aware day. It's more of a weather-aware night into tomorrow.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, but still, we use that term. I know we have weather-aware days, but still stay weather-aware through the course of your Tuesday. As Larry had mentioned, because the system's still stalling out, still a lot of constant rain. We know how it floods around here, especially along the local streams and everything. Larry, I'm your stat man, so I've actually prepared. Yeah, stat man. So the main thing for these stats is I want to take a deeper dive since this storm would be named Helene. So, Robert, if we can switch over to the traffic computer, there's actually been Helene 6 times in history.
Now, 6 Helenes.
6 Helenes. Wow. Who would have known?
I didn't know that.
Now, what's interesting, though, and I'm still really trying to find the reason why this happened, the naming of the list was still really unsure from pretty much 1953 to 1979. But the last Helene that we have is 1958. It came back in 1988 as part of the current list that we have now seen. But this one is a historic storm a lot of people maybe not realize here in the Carolinas. So it was September 27th, 1958, that Hurricane Helene actually brushed by the Outer Banks. Now, the thing with this storm is the strongest winds were actually offshore. This is a Category 4, where Cape Lookout at the Coast Guard station measured a wind gust at 144 miles per hour. Wow. So this storm was not retired. There was a lot of tree damage, a lot of damage in general. The population, of course, wasn't as high back in 1958 through this area. But if this storm was just 12 miles further off towards the west, Helene would not be named today. It would be a retired name, but a near miss. But winds range from 135 to 144 miles per hour. This is nothing close to current day Helene. I'm just letting you know that in Carolina history, this is actually a significant name.
So how many times has Helene been used?
Helene 6 times.
6 times.
A 30-year hiatus for whatever reason.
Okay.
I actually reached out to the NC State Climate Office saying, what's happening here? But I do know for sure because we actually did a weather IQ on the 5 strongest hurricanes in North Carolina history. Well, Hurricane Helene back in 1958 actually had the 2nd highest wind gust that we've ever had. Number 1 was
Hazel.
Hazel. Yep, you got it.
Wow. Well, anyway, thank you.
There you go. And with some history lessons.
We'll be here 24/7. We'll have the latest for you coming up at 11:30 with Chris and this afternoon with Brad. We'll be back tomorrow morning.
Around the clock.
24/7. We are making sure you have all the impacts. Have a great day.